Good afternoon, everyone. Joanne Hayes, White San Francisco Fire Department. Since our last address, like Mayor Lee said, we were happy to inform that the 60 plus that I talked about as being unaccounted for are all now accounted for. Having been on scene for a number of hours just after the crash, I can tell you I am very deeply gratified with the incredible display of teamwork exhibited not just by our police and fire departments, but our brothers and sisters that work in San Mateo County that stepped up to assist us. We had both a fire emergency and multi-casualty medical emergency. Very difficult scene at first, very well coordinated with the men and women of multiple departments, working hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder with the people at the airport. Our mayor's been on scene, not only in our emergency operations center, but at the accident scene. And having surveyed that area, I would agree with him. We're lucky that there has not been a greater loss of life. And my hat is off to the men and women that literally assisted people off the plane, went into the cabin of the plane to do what they could, and that is to protect lives. And it was, like I said, an incredible display of teamwork. Our hearts do go out to those that are impacted by today's emergency and accident and tragic loss. When I had talked about those that were unaccounted for, I just wanted to be clear that our job is to move people off the airfield and into a safe zone, and we moved them into the airport. So when we were counting our numbers, there were two basically delivery points or points of entry here at the airport. So those were, after the press conference, when we compared all the numbers with the different people at those sites, we were then able to account for everyone. We had a total of 182 people transported to area hospitals, both in San Francisco County and San Mateo County. And like Mayor Lee said, it is a team effort, and the men and women that work so diligently at our hospitals, providing the care and support for those that are injured, thank them. We also have 123 that I believe are still either here at the airport or have been processed and are out. Those are people that are not injured, were passengers and not injured. And then, of course, we have the 2 fatalities, and that accounts for the 307 people. Once again, thank you for your attention. Thank you for your patience. These scenes are always fluid, but with the great work under Mayor Lee's leadership, we're happy to report that there was a greater loss of life. Nevertheless, our hearts do go out to those that have suffered losses today. Thank you.
Doug Yeakel, I'm the Public Information Officer at SFO. I just want to brief you a little bit on the status of the airport. I'll begin by recapping some of the initial facts of the incident. The flight in question was Asiana Flight 214. This is an aircraft that originated in Shanghai, continued on through Seoul Incheon Airport into San Francisco. The incident occurred at approximately 11:27 a.m. today. Since that time, we've been working to restore the airport to normal operational status. We've got a total of 4 runways at SFO. 2 of those runways remain closed as a result of this incident. We have reopened 2 other runways, and we are accepting limited arrivals and departures. Our best advice for passengers traveling at SFO continues to be to check with their airline for the status of their flight. In terms of command of the incident, at 5 p.m., an NTSB representative was on site and assumed command of the incident and the investigation. We're anticipating receipt of the NTSB team from Washington at approximately midnight tonight. The next step will be a press briefing, which will be held sometime tomorrow morning jointly with the NTSB. We will advise the time of that briefing when it's established. Thank you very much.
Will flights fully resume today or tomorrow?
We've restored partial operations. Partial arrival and departure operations have been restored. We're still awaiting receipt of the NTSB team. We need to allow them to go through their investigation process. We need to allow that to happen before we're able to open the other 2 runways. So that remains to be seen.
How many people are in critical condition, and where was the dead found?
We don't have the exact number of critical. We do know that of the 182 that were transported, of the 182 that were transported, a total of 49 were in critical condition and were transported immediately from the scene.
Can you tell us anything about some children who are coming from China here for some type of camping situation? Do you know anything about that group of children?
I'm sorry, I don't have any.
The dead were on scene.
Were the deceased on scene, or did they expire in the hospital?
I'm afraid I don't have any.
Doug, could you talk about the runway it landed? Has there been construction or expansion of that particular runway happened with jet fuel? Because two things help you here. One, it was landing and thus pretty close to empty. And two, did you get water or foam or something like that on it quickly?
Yes, our crews arrived on scene, and again, it was an alert 3 for a plane that had already landed. Chutes were deployed, and within about a 3-minute period of time, we had our aircraft firefighter vehicles on scene deploying both foam and water. And to answer the question the gentleman asked earlier, is the 2 fatalities were found on scene exterior of the plane.
Was it pretty close to empty then in terms of that jet fuel? Because it seemed like it could have been a much greater fire.
So I'm not an aeronautics expert, but I would imagine coming from Seoul, Korea, it wasn't a full plane, full fuel load.
The Coast Guard was able to retrieve a couple of the passengers. Were those passengers found in the wreckage or were they found in the water?
Undetermined at this time. We have to check in with the Coast Guard. I believe there were people at or near the water, but that they had gotten out of the water and walked over to the transportation here to the airport terminal.
You were talking before about, correct me if I'm wrong, some of your people going on the plane actually, and were they checking to see if anyone was on the plane? Were they actually able to rescue people and take them off the plane that you're aware of?
My understanding, I wasn't first on scene, but we did have our members on the plane checking for passengers, assisting those off that needed to be assisted off. As I said before, before we got on scene, the chutes were deployed, so there were a number of people that were offloading themselves, and we did assist with that. And then since the last briefing, we did have our rescue team go onto the plane to do one final search of the entire cabin from back to front.
We know there has been
Were
other
there people,
people.
were there members of your team that actually went on the plane, and there were still people inside and helped them off?
That is, I don't know that at this
Okay.
time.
Ma'am, do you know the nationalities of the people who died?
No, we do not.
Can you say if they were flight attendants or crew members or
We don't know.
passengers?
We do not know.
Did it look like they were pulled out of the wreckage, or you say they were found externally? Did it look like they were actually rescued out first, or do you know if they expired on the runway?
My understanding is that they were found on the runway. And I do believe that our initial airport crew did assist people when they went onto the plane, off the plane, and made some rescues as well.
Can you tell us what
System on?
The question was the instrument landing system on? And given that we have clear visibility today, we're operating under what's called visual flight rules. So as a result, the ILS would not be clear.
What about the VIS system? Doug, what about the VIS system?
One-way approach lights.
We don't know the status in terms of damage to the runway. The NTSB will be making an evaluation of the area, and that's really what we're waiting on before we can get confirmation of our ability to reopen the remaining runways.
Can you tell us what the protocol is as far as the passengers are concerned?
The end of the runway.
Can you tell us what the protocol is as far as the passengers are concerned? I know you try to keep them safe and away from the beach, but what's the protocol? Do you keep them sequestered somewhere, or what happens when something like this goes on?
Well, really the first step is from the first responders to make an assessment of the medical condition of each individual, and based on that status, either transport them to hospitals or, for uninjured, arrange a process for them to be reunified with friends and family, and that process is currently underway.
You said the runway threshold was lengthened. What does that mean exactly, and what impact would that have on the pilot?
We wouldn't expect it to have any impact. This was part of the federal mandate to extend all runway thresholds around.
What is the threshold?
A threshold is a space before the actual beginning.
Was the instrument landing system operational though prior to the accident, or was it shut down for construction?
The instrument landing system would not be in use on a day like today.
But in general, for the past couple of weeks, has it been operational?
I don't have that information.
What about the VIS system? I understand the one that chose the plane, what angle to come in on has been inoperative. Was it inoperative, and could it have something to do with the landing problems?
I don't have any information on that.
What is the status of the pilot? Is he responsible?
I'm sorry, I don't know that.
Can you clarify the bit about people being in the water? I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand that.
Certainly. So on arrival, we did observe some of the passengers coming out of the water, but the plane certainly was not in the water. There was a fire on the plane, so the assumption might be that they went near the water's edge, which is very shallow, to maybe douse themselves with water.
Can you clarify exactly how many
They
passengers?
could have fallen out when they hit the ground. Was there a leak of that?
The tail section is separated from the body.
Right, but was there an actual reach from the passenger compartment to the
There was
Yeah,
reporting that
they
people
fall
got
out.
sucked out.
And that's going to all be part of the investigation. I would comfortable
If you go into the plane, you see out the back.
Yes.
Were the pilots transported to the hospital?
Greg Searchy, San Francisco. Yeah, our officers responded with fire. They also assisted. Much hasn't been said about the crew. From talking to our folks, the crew was heroic in this, making sure all the folks had out. Some people cutting safety belts. And at this point in time, as has been said, NTSB is in charge. FBI, San Francisco, and all other law enforcement is subordinate to that investigation.
So the landing light indicator, the path, that was working when the plane was coming in? The four lights, I thought they were on the right flight path.
I don't have that information. They're operating normally.
Can you say what
Folks, we're going to wrap up this briefing. Thanks very much for coming out. Our next step is going to be a joint press conference with the NTSB tomorrow morning. The time and location to be announced. Thank you.